What if I told you that a simple breakfast habit you probably already have could be slowly weakening your bones without you even realizing it? Every single morning, millions of people over 60 sit down to a warm bowl of oatmeal, believing they're making a healthy choice. And they're not wrong. Oatmeal is wonderful. But here's what most people don't know. There's a hidden problem with how most of us prepare our morning oats, and it could be sabotaging your bone health right when you need it most. I've spent over 20 years as a geriatric specialist, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen patients come into my office with unexplained bone loss, patients who swear they're doing everything right. They're eating their oatmeal, taking their calcium supplements, and yet their bone density scans tell a completely different story. For years, this puzzled me. Until I discovered one simple addition that can transform your morning bowl of oats from a potential bone thief into a powerful bone builder. Hello, I'm Dr. Sophia Reynolds, and I specialize in geriatric medicine with a particular focus on bone health and nutrition in adults over 60. Before we dive into this game-changing discovery, if you haven't subscribed yet, I highly recommend hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications so you never miss another health tip made especially for you. And if you find this video helpful, please leave your questions and video suggestions in the comments below. I read every single one, and it helps me create more content to help people just like you. Now, let me tell you about Mrs. Dorothy Patterson, 72 years old, a retired schoolteacher from Austin, Texas. Dorothy came to see me last spring, absolutely devastated. She had just received the results of her bone density scan, and her doctor had told her she was now officially in the osteoporosis range. But here's what broke my heart. Dorothy had been eating oatmeal religiously for breakfast every single day for the past 15 years. She thought she was being so careful, so health-conscious. She told me with tears in her eyes, "Dr. Reynolds, I did everything I was supposed to do. How could this happen?" Dorothy's story is far more common than you might think. And the reason lies in something most people have never heard of: phytic acid. You see, oatmeal, while being incredibly nutritious, contains compounds called phytates. These phytates have a sneaky habit of binding to essential minerals in your digestive tract, particularly calcium, magnesium, and zinc, the very minerals your bones desperately need. When phytates grab onto these minerals, your body simply cannot absorb them. They pass right through your system, completely wasted. But here's where the solution comes in. And it's so simple you might not believe me at first. The one ingredient that can completely transform your oatmeal's bone-building potential is prunes. Yes, prunes. Those humble dried plums that your grandmother probably loved have turned out to be one of the most powerful bone-protecting foods ever studied. And when you combine them with your morning oatmeal, something almost magical happens. Let me tell you about Mr. Harold Chen, 68 years old, a retired engineer from San Francisco. Harold came to me 3 years ago with significant bone loss in his spine and hips. His wife had started adding prunes to his morning oatmeal after reading about their benefits online, but Harold was skeptical. He said to me, "Dr. Reynolds, I'm a numbers guy. Show me the science." So I did. I explained to Harold that researchers have discovered that prunes contain unique polyphenols and other compounds that actually slow down the breakdown of bone tissue. But more importantly, they seem to enhance the body's ability to absorb the minerals it needs for bone building. Fast forward 18 months, and Harold's follow-up bone density scan showed something remarkable. Not only had his bone loss stopped, but he had actually gained a small amount of bone density in his spine. Harold, the numbers guy, was converted. He now calls his morning oatmeal with prunes his bone breakfast and hasn't missed a day since. If you're still watching and finding this information helpful, drop a comment below with the number 1 just to let me know you're with me. It really helps me understand what topics resonate with you most. Now let me explain exactly why this combination works so well. Oatmeal provides a wonderful foundation. It's rich in fiber, which supports overall digestive health, and it contains some minerals that are beneficial for bones. However, as I mentioned, those pesky phytates can block mineral absorption. When you add prunes to the mix, several beneficial things happen simultaneously. First, prunes are exceptionally rich in vitamin K, a nutrient that most people overlook but is absolutely essential for bone health. Vitamin K helps direct calcium to your bones where it belongs, rather than letting it accumulate in your arteries or soft tissues. Second, prunes contain boron, a trace mineral that helps your body use calcium and magnesium more effectively. Third, and this is fascinating, the polyphenols in prunes appear to suppress the activity of cells called osteoclasts, which are responsible for breaking down bone tissue. Let me share the story of Mrs. Evelyn Martinez, 75 years old, from Phoenix, Arizona. Evelyn is a former dancer who spent her whole life being active, but menopause and the years that followed took a significant toll on her bones. When she first came to see me, she was terrified of falling. She had become almost housebound because she was so afraid of fracturing a hip like her mother had. Evelyn told me, "Dr. Reynolds, I used to leap across stages. Now I'm afraid to walk to my mailbox." We talked about many things during that first visit, but one of the simplest recommendations I gave her was to start adding 5 to 6 prunes to her morning oatmeal. Evelyn was dubious at first. She associated prunes with, well, digestive issues that older people don't like to discuss. But I reassured her that when eaten as part of a meal, prunes are much gentler on the system, and the bone benefits far outweigh any initial adjustment period. 6 months later, Evelyn walked into my office with a completely different energy. Her bone density hadn't dramatically changed yet. That takes time, but her confidence had transformed. She told me she had started taking short walks again, and that the simple act of doing something proactive for her bones each morning had given her a sense of control she thought she had lost. Sometimes the psychological benefits of taking charge of your health are just as important as the physical ones. But here's something crucial that I need to address, and I want you to pay close attention, because this is where many people go wrong. The way you prepare your oatmeal matters enormously. If you're using instant oatmeal, those little packets that cook in 1 minute, you're likely not getting the full benefits. Those highly processed oats have had much of their nutritional value stripped away. Instead, opt for old-fashioned rolled oats, or even better, steel-cut oats. These less processed forms retain more of their original nutrients and fiber. I had a patient named Mr. Robert Williams, 64 years old, a retired accountant from Chicago. Robert thought he was being efficient by using instant oatmeal every morning. He would tear open a packet, add hot water, stir in his prunes, and eat it in under 2 minutes while checking his emails. When I explained the difference between instant and traditional oats, Robert was surprised. He said, "I thought oatmeal was oatmeal. Who knew there was a difference?" Robert switched to steel-cut oats, which admittedly take longer to cook, about 20 to 30 minutes. But he found a workaround that I now recommend to all my patients. He prepares a large batch on Sunday evening, portions it into individual containers, and simply reheats a portion each morning. His prunes go in after reheating, when the oatmeal is warm but not too hot, which helps preserve their beneficial compounds. Robert told me this small change to his routine has become almost meditative for him. He actually looks forward to his morning oatmeal ritual now. Now, I want to address a question I get asked constantly. How many prunes should you actually eat? Based on the research and my clinical experience, I recommend starting with 5 prunes per day and gradually working up to about 6 to 10 if your digestive system tolerates them well. You don't want to overdo it, especially at first. Your body needs time to adjust to the increased fiber intake. Starting with 5 prunes mixed into your oatmeal is a perfect beginning. Let me tell you about Mrs. Patricia Anderson, 70 years old, from Seattle, Washington. Patricia is a retired nurse, so she came to me already quite knowledgeable about health matters. She had been skeptical of what she called food fads, and wanted me to explain the actual science behind the prune recommendation. I appreciated her scrutiny because it's exactly the kind of critical thinking we should all apply to health advice. I explained to Patricia that multiple studies, including some significant research from university settings, have shown that postmenopausal women who consumed prunes daily showed significantly less bone loss compared to those who didn't. In some studies, women eating prunes actually showed improvements in bone density markers. Patricia, with her medical background, understood immediately why this was significant. She said, "Dr. Reynolds, most interventions just slow bone loss. You're telling me this might actually help rebuild?" I told her that while we should be careful about making promises, the evidence is genuinely encouraging. Patricia has now been adding prunes to her oatmeal for over 2 years, and her most recent bone scan showed stable density with a slight improvement in her hip region. For a 72-year-old woman, that's remarkable. If you're finding this information valuable, please consider sharing this video with someone you care about who might benefit. Sometimes the simplest health changes can make the biggest differences, and spreading this knowledge could genuinely help someone you love. Now, let me share some practical tips for making this daily habit as effective as possible. First, timing matters. Eating your prune oatmeal in the morning gives your body all day to absorb those beneficial nutrients. Second, don't cook your prunes in the oatmeal. Add them after the oatmeal is cooked but still warm. High heat can damage some of the beneficial compounds in prunes. Third, consider soaking your oats overnight in water with a splash of lemon juice or apple cider vinegar. This traditional preparation method actually reduces the phytic acid content, making your oatmeal even more bone-friendly. I had a wonderful patient, Mr. James O'Brien, 73 years old, from Boston, Massachusetts. James is Irish-American and grew up eating oatmeal, or as his grandmother called it, porridge, every single morning. When I suggested the overnight soaking method, James laughed and said his grandmother used to do exactly that, though she probably didn't know why it worked. He told me, "Dr. Reynolds, turns out my grandmother was smarter than all of us. She just didn't have the science to explain it." James has been particularly diligent about the overnight soaking method, and he's added his own twist. He soaks his steel-cut oats overnight, cooks them in the morning, then stirs in chopped prunes and a sprinkle of cinnamon. The cinnamon, by the way, has its own blood sugar regulating benefits, making this combination even more valuable for overall health. Let me also address what else you can add to maximize the bone-building potential of your morning oatmeal. While prunes are the star ingredient I'm focusing on today, there are supporting players that can enhance the effect. A tablespoon of ground flaxseed adds omega-3 fatty acids, which may help reduce inflammation that can contribute to bone loss. A handful of walnuts provides additional minerals and healthy fats. A splash of fortified plant milk or regular milk adds extra calcium to the mix. Mrs. Helen Thompson, 69 years old, from Denver, Colorado, took my basic prune recommendation and created what she calls her bone-building bowl. Helen is a creative person, a retired art teacher, and she approaches her morning oatmeal like an artist approaches a canvas. Her version includes steel-cut oats that have been soaked overnight, 5 or 6 chopped prunes, a tablespoon of ground flaxseed, a few walnut pieces, and a small amount of maple syrup for sweetness. She tops it all with a splash of calcium-fortified almond milk. Helen told me, "Dr. Reynolds, I actually look forward to breakfast now. It feels like I'm doing something good for myself." And here's the thing about Helen. She used to skip breakfast entirely, claiming she wasn't hungry in the morning. Now she wakes up genuinely excited about her bone-building bowl. When healthy habits become enjoyable habits, they're sustainable habits. And sustainability is everything when we're talking about bone health, which is a long-term commitment. Now, I want to talk about what you should avoid adding to your oatmeal, because this is just as important as what you should add. First, avoid excessive sugar. While a small amount of natural sweetener is fine, loading your oatmeal with brown sugar or honey can promote inflammation and may counteract some of the bone benefits. Second, be cautious with very high-fiber additions if you're just starting out. Adding prunes plus bran plus flaxseed plus chia seeds all at once can overwhelm your digestive system. Start simple, with just the prunes, and add other ingredients gradually over weeks. Mr. George Foster, 66 years old, from Atlanta, Georgia, learned this lesson the hard way. George is an enthusiastic person who tends to go all in on things. When I recommended adding prunes to his oatmeal, he decided to add everything beneficial he could think of all at once. He told me sheepishly at his follow-up appointment, "Dr. Reynolds, I spent the first week regretting that decision." We had a good laugh about it, and George scaled back to a more gradual approach. He now says that sometimes less really is more, at least at the beginning. Let me share something that I find particularly compelling about the prune and bone connection. Unlike calcium supplements, which have been associated with some concerning side effects in certain studies, prunes appear to support bone health through multiple pathways without those risks. They're a whole food, which means they come packaged with fiber, antioxidants, and other beneficial compounds that work together synergistically. This is what nutrition scientists call the food matrix effect, and it's why getting nutrients from whole foods often works better than getting them from isolated supplements. Mrs. Barbara Wilson, 71 years old from Portland, Oregon, came to me specifically because she wanted to reduce her reliance on supplements. Barbara was taking calcium pills, vitamin D pills, magnesium pills, and several others. Her medicine cabinet looked like a pharmacy, and she was tired of swallowing so many pills every day. She asked me, "Dr. Reynolds, isn't there a simpler way?" I told Barbara that while some supplements might still be necessary depending on her specific situation, adding prunes to her diet was a beautiful example of letting food be medicine. Over the course of a year, working with her primary care doctor, Barbara was able to reduce some of her supplements while maintaining stable bone density. She told me that her morning oatmeal with prunes now feels like medicine she actually enjoys taking. Speaking of which, I want to address a common concern I hear from patients. "But Dr. Reynolds, I don't like prunes." I understand this hesitation. Prunes have suffered from an image problem for decades, associated primarily with digestive issues rather than recognized for their remarkable nutritional benefits. But here's what I tell reluctant patients. When prunes are mixed into warm oatmeal, they become soft and sweet, almost like a natural caramel. They're not the same eating experience as eating a dry prune straight from the package. Mr. David Kim, 67 years old, from Los Angeles, California, was adamant when he first came to see me. He said, "Dr. Reynolds, I have never liked prunes, and I'm not about to start now. Give me something else." I asked David to try my oatmeal method just 3 times before making a final decision. Reluctantly, he agreed. At his next appointment, David admitted he had been wrong. He said the prunes in the oatmeal didn't taste like the prunes he remembered from childhood. They were softer, sweeter, and actually added a pleasant flavor to his morning bowl. David has now been eating prune oatmeal for over a year and says he genuinely enjoys it. Before I share my final thoughts, I want to emphasize something crucial. While this dietary change can be wonderfully beneficial, it should be part of a comprehensive approach to bone health. This means getting appropriate weight-bearing exercise, ensuring adequate vitamin D levels through safe sun exposure or supplementation if needed, avoiding excessive alcohol consumption, not smoking, and working with your healthcare provider to monitor your bone health over time. I want to tell you one more story about Mrs. Caroline Taylor, 74 years old, from Nashville, Tennessee. Caroline came to me feeling hopeless. Her mother had suffered a devastating hip fracture at 78 and spent her final years in a nursing home. Caroline was terrified the same fate awaited her. She said to me, "Dr. Reynolds, I watch my diet, I exercise, I take my supplements. But when I look at my family history, I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle." I told Caroline something that I'll share with you now. While family history matters, it is not destiny. We have more control over our bone health than many people realize. Simple daily choices, consistently applied over time, can make a meaningful difference. The combination of oatmeal and prunes that we've discussed today is one small but powerful example of those daily choices. Caroline embraced not just the oatmeal recommendation but a whole approach to bone health. She started a gentle walking program, began doing simple balance exercises, made sure she was getting enough protein, and yes, she added prunes to her morning oatmeal. 2 years later, her bone density scan showed improvement for the first time in a decade. More importantly, Caroline told me she no longer feels like she's fighting a losing battle. She said, "Dr. Reynolds, I feel like I'm actually doing something. That changes everything." So here is what I want you to take away from our time together today. First, oatmeal is a wonderful breakfast choice, but its bone benefits can be significantly enhanced by adding prunes. Second, 5 to 6 prunes per day is a reasonable starting point, mixed into your warm oatmeal. Third, opt for old-fashioned rolled oats or steel-cut oats rather than instant varieties. Fourth, consider soaking your oats overnight to reduce phytic acid content. Fifth, be patient. Bone health improvements take time, often 6 months to a year before showing up on scans. Sixth, make this part of a comprehensive approach to bone health that includes exercise, adequate nutrition, and regular monitoring with your healthcare provider. Let me also share with you what happens inside your body when you consistently eat this combination. When you consume prunes, their polyphenolic compounds travel through your digestive system and are absorbed into your bloodstream. From there, they influence the activity of 2 types of bone cells: osteoblasts, which build new bone, and osteoclasts, which break down old bone. In a healthy skeleton, these 2 cell types work in balance. But as we age, particularly after menopause in women, the osteoclasts often become overactive, breaking down bone faster than the osteoblasts can rebuild it. This is the fundamental imbalance that leads to osteoporosis. What prunes appear to do, based on laboratory and clinical studies, is help restore this balance. The polyphenols in prunes seem to calm down those overactive osteoclasts while simultaneously supporting the bone-building osteoblasts. It's like having a gentle mediator that helps both sides of the bone remodeling process work more harmoniously together. Mrs. Ruth Anderson, 73 years old, from Minneapolis, Minnesota, was a science teacher before she retired. When I explained this mechanism to her, her eyes lit up with understanding. She said, "Dr. Reynolds, so the prunes aren't just adding minerals, they're actually changing how my bone cells behave?" Exactly. And that's what makes this approach different from simply taking a calcium pill. You're not just providing raw materials, you're supporting the entire bone maintenance system. Ruth has been particularly interested in tracking her progress. She keeps a detailed food journal and notes any changes she notices in her overall health. After 8 months of consistent prune oatmeal consumption, she reported feeling more energetic, sleeping better, and even noticing that her nails seemed stronger. While these observations are anecdotal, they align with what we know about improved mineral absorption affecting multiple body systems. I also want to address the importance of consistency. Bone health doesn't improve overnight. It takes months, sometimes years, of consistent healthy habits to see meaningful changes on a bone density scan. This is why finding a breakfast routine you actually enjoy is so important. If you dread your morning oatmeal, you won't stick with it. But if you genuinely look forward to it, like so many of my patients have come to do, then consistency becomes natural. Mr. Thomas Murphy, 70 years old, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, told me something that really stuck with me. He said, "Dr. Reynolds, I've tried so many health trends over the years. Most of them felt like punishment. But this oatmeal thing? It actually feels like a treat. That's why I know I'll keep doing it." Thomas has now been consistent for nearly 3 years, and his bone health has remained stable despite his age and family history of osteoporosis. Another aspect I want to touch on is the social dimension of healthy eating. Several of my patients have found that sharing their bone-building breakfast routine with friends and family members has created a sense of community and mutual support. Mrs. Janet Collins, 68 years old, from San Diego, California, started a small breakfast club with 3 of her neighbors. They take turns hosting a weekly breakfast where they all enjoy oatmeal with prunes and share health tips they've learned. Janet told me this has made her health journey feel less lonely and more enjoyable. I should also mention that the benefits of prunes extend beyond bone health, though that's our focus today. Prunes are excellent for digestive regularity, which is particularly important as we age. They contain antioxidants that may support cardiovascular health and cognitive function. They have a relatively low glycemic index despite their sweet taste, making them a reasonable choice even for those managing blood sugar levels. All of these additional benefits make prunes a valuable addition to any diet, not just for bone health. Now, I want to be very clear about something important. While the information I've shared today is based on research and clinical experience, everyone is different. Your specific health situation may require different approaches. Please work with your own doctor to determine what's right for you. If you have any underlying health conditions, particularly those affecting your digestive system or blood sugar regulation, discuss these dietary changes with your healthcare provider first. But for most adults over 60 who are looking for simple, evidence-based ways to support their bone health, adding prunes to your morning oatmeal is a safe, affordable, and genuinely delicious place to start. It's a small change that you can make tomorrow morning, and sometimes those small changes add up to something significant. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and share it with friends or family members who might benefit. Remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss future videos about staying healthy and strong as we age. Leave your comments and questions below. I read every single one, and your feedback helps me create more content that serves you. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I believe in your ability to take charge of your health, one breakfast at a time. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.